Hi, I'm Paulo Dias from Ultimate Media and the South African Podcasters Guild, and you're listening to Into the Podverse with Tony Doe.
Meet Paulo Dias, a pioneer in audio innovation. From blending radio with digital platforms to founding the South African Podcasters Guild, he's shaping the future of podcasting in South Africa. Join us as we uncover his journey and get his insights on the exciting world of audio storytelling. Welcome to Into the Podverse with your host, Tony Doe. This is where innovation meets storytelling and challenges transform into opportunities. So join me, Tony Doe, on an auditory journey that unveils the secrets of this burgeoning medium. Uncover the hidden gems of podcasting from my perspective and with exclusive interviews from the masters of the Podverse. You've had a significant journey in the audio and radio industry. Can you share what initially sparked your interest in audio innovation?
I think I've got this fascination with technology as well, and I find it quite interesting to have this love for radio that is a very standard kind of media. You know, if you listen to radio from 50, 60 years ago, it sounds pretty similar to today, and that's why it works. But I like technology and I like new things and I like looking at innovation and I like seeing how people's behavior changes when they're interacting with a new platform. So I always look at new platforms to go, how can that platform generate a new type of experience with a listener? I look at video games, I look at mobile gaming, I look at social media, I look at TikTok and go, what are people looking for in there that radio might not be giving them? And how can we get radio to give them something akin? So not to say challenge it or replace it or try to be that platform, but what is it that they want out of that we can take and use for radio? So it basically comes down to me personally. It's my love of gadgets, my love of technology, my love of trying something new that no one's ever seen before and putting into something that you know really well. Because I think in my experience, whenever I've seen somebody adapt, and over the years, whether it was the first time they sent an SMS to a company, or they used WhatsApp to engage with a business, or they downloaded an app, most times it's because a radio station told them to do it, to partake in something the radio station did. So if you can get that behavior across the board, I think that's a really interesting way to combine your campaigns.
As head of audio innovation at Ultimate Media, what are some of the most exciting projects you've worked on that integrate traditional radio with digital platforms?
We started playing very early on in looking at how can we take TikTok and radio and get them to work together. It was specifically over the COVID period when in South Africa we were rolling out the vaccine to under 15s. So you're going, well, you can go onto youth radio stations, which we did, but the behavior of somebody listening to a youth radio station versus somebody on TikTok at that same age, they're going to behave differently. So we built out a campaign that was going to have elements of radio and elements of TikTok and marry the two of them together. We did that for both the vaccine rollout through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and then we applied it again a year or two later to Burger King, kind of taking what our learnings were. And it's very interesting to see how even over the time frame between the two campaigns, how both platforms, specifically TikTok, had changed and people's relationship with it had changed and what they responded with. Yet the radio relationship stayed exactly the same. So it's very interesting to see in that two-year time span of how people had more demands of TikTok, yet were happy with what we were doing on radio. So that was one. I think we were one of the pioneers of integrating radio and TikTok together. I also think, and it's maybe not the most exciting one, but we've developed a way to get radio listeners to engage with WhatsApp in a really different way. You know, I think when we talk about social media and digital platforms and innovation, people can get caught up in AI and this TikTok, this and whatever. But WhatsApp is the most powerful social media across South Africa and Africa, you know, and we can sleep on it at times. And it's the one method that I've seen really revolutionize the way radio stations interact with their audience, because suddenly it's not 100 people trying to phone into a central line. Everybody can now get into the station and be heard effectively. So we looked at that and said, right, we've got this great way of people coming in, But what are we doing the other way around? Because it's still a one-way communication. So can we take that engagement of people talking to the station and wanting to be heard by the station, and can we now start speaking back to people? And can we now start understanding those people and what they want and how they behave and who they are to make a better programming experience, one, and show a better return for an advertiser, and just make those two work really well together. So it doesn't always have to be the new that we're looking at. Sometimes it just goes, it's literally in the palm of our hands. We engage with WhatsApp every day. Let's just understand how we can use that technology to make a better listener experience right through the line.
As a founding member of the South African Podcasters Guild, what inspired you to help create this organization?
I've been very fortunate in my podcast journey to have had colleagues and collaborators and support and have access to go into bigger networks and things like that. And I felt like not everyone has that. And if you don't have that, where do you start? And, whether you just want access to a studio so you can start your project, or you want access to somebody to bounce ideas off of, or you want access to somebody or group of people that can help get you into a network, get you in front of brands. Like I say, I've been fortunate to build up those networks over years, and I just felt myself and the other founding members, it was time for us to spread that love of going, what is the point of us knowing everything? It is a very small industry. Let's just expand it out and just open it up to anybody at any kind of stage of their podcasting journey to say, you know what, if you need someone, we know someone. If you need something, we know how to get you that something. We can put you in touch with the people that can get that something. And I think that's ultimately it. It's going, you know what, if you've been lucky in any aspect of life, you've got to share it with other people.
Can you elaborate on the primary aims of the SAPG and how they plan to support the local podcasting community?
Access and communication and openness to like-minded people. I think the aim for us is if we can take people who go, I thought of starting a podcast once, and get them to start a podcast, that's something achievable or something that we really want to achieve. We also want people to look at a podcast and go, you know what, that is a viable thing for me to grow myself, grow my brand, grow me as a person, grow me as a creator, grow my network, whatever it is. And like everybody's got a website, why don't everyone has a podcast? And I think we kind of want to get into the space, but it starts off with just giving access to people, through our WhatsApp channels, WhatsApp again, through our WhatsApp channels. You can go on there at any time and you have access to some of the top podcasting minds in South Africa, people who have kind of invented the industry and molded it in a way, to people winning awards. People got access to advertisers, and you can ask a question and the most insane person will answer you. And that's, I think sometimes our new members just think, oh, that is another guy on the end of a WhatsApp, where you go, wait, hold on a second. Do you know who actually responded to you? And I think that's really powerful. Nobody's here for clout or anything like that, but it goes, look what access you have and the people you have access to, that now you don't have an excuse not to get into podcasts or to take your podcast to a level, because there's a free university here, basically, of podcasting that's going to answer anything that you need to know.
What unique opportunities do you see for podcasting in South Africa compared to other regions?
I think the local language, and I think that's a big thing right across Africa, is that it allows for multitude of voice. In South Africa, we have 11 languages, and other than English, all the other languages have one TV station, one radio station. And that's not right, because that's one viewpoint. That's one aspect of information. That's one way you're representing a language, and surely that is not the only way. I also see a lot more diversity coming into podcasting. One thing that has always blown me away about South Africa compared to when I look at podcasting in the rest of the world, your first wave of podcasters in the rest of the world tended to be kind of middle-class, middle-aged white guys. And it took a while to get diversity into it. South Africa's been diverse from day one. And I think that's really been the most fascinating and interesting thing. And I really see that just getting bigger and more diverse and more dynamic and more variety of voice in the content and that podcasters start to create.
How do you think the podcasting space in South Africa will evolve in the next 5 years?
The talent on podcasts is ridiculous. And I really see podcasters actually not going backwards, but having to make the choice about whether they go, and I say it backwards in a weird way, I see TV channels and radio stations are going to start looking at podcasts for the next big thing, because the talent is there and they're not sitting around waiting before, if I use my radio world, right? If you were a talented broadcaster, what could you do? You just sat there in demos and demos and demos, and hopefully you got some community station gig. Hopefully you got a campus gig and somebody would notice you. Now you're going, listen, I'm really passionate about this. I'm just going to make a podcast and I'm going to grow a podcast. And then the radio stations will notice you. And when they do notice you, there's a choice to be made. Go, do I want to go that way? And I think there's going to be the same thing starting to happen with TV. They're going to start looking at podcasters and people making waves in that space, because it's not just the stories and the talent, the production values are amazing. They're phenomenal what's coming out. And I think TV stations, radio, traditional media are going to start looking at podcasters and go, geez, you guys are made for, you're ready. We just plug you in. You're ready to go. You have audiences. You have the discipline. You have the passion. You have the knowledge. You have the know-how, and I think if you have to think before you take somebody from, a radio station background, you put them in behind a mic, they've got that skill set and that they're really good at that. I think if you take a podcaster, they've got so many tools in their toolkit to use when you're now putting them in like a more formal environment. So I really do see that happening over the next few years, of podcasters going into what we're calling now the mainstream. I also see, in terms of, I think we're stuck right now, right? I don't foresee South Africans subscribing to podcasts. So the Patreon model or the paid for podcast model is not going to be dramatic. Even the biggest podcast here is not making a heck of a lot of money out of their Patreons, right? And I really don't see that changing. We don't like subscribing and paying for stuff. We want stuff for free. I also don't see advertisers as being the be all and end all for creators and podcasters to continue. I sense there is a third disruptive model. If I knew what it is, I'd go buy shares in it right now. But I sense there is a third disruptive, member-funded, creator-funded model that is going to allow everyone to monetize. I don't know what it is, but the two versions, whether it's listener or viewer paid for and funded, or advertiser funded, I don't think that's it. I just get the sense of a third model somewhere that is creator-driven is going to be what's going to help us really monetize this industry.
What are some of the biggest challenges you've encountered in integrating radio with digital audio platforms?
Budgets, always. Politics and red tape. When you're dealing with agencies, if you go in as the radio agency, right, you're the radio agency. The second you put a digital element into it, they're going, oh, okay, cool, but our digital agency will handle that. You can't touch that. And then you do kind of like half and half work, and it doesn't work. And your digital idea just gets dissipated or changed or doesn't work, and then you holding the can for it. So that is really a big challenge. When you don't have that challenge, I think there's a lack of knowledge and understanding, because people are quite clear and they understand what they need to get out of radio. I'm still not 100% sure people understand what they need to get out of digital and any kind of digital. So what you need to get out of digital in terms of display is going to be very different to what you need out of digital in terms of digital audio versus what you're going to get out of digital in terms of social. So that really changes what you want. And I think, like I say, people know what they need out of radio. They don't understand what they need out of digital. And I don't blame them, because it's all is changing. The metric and the algorithms and the usage and the behaviors all is changing. And then I also think there's a severe knowledge and skill shortage. As much as there are people creating, I don't think they know how to create it in a really meaningful way that's going to deliver a result on another platform. And you end up doing campaigns, and it's really innovative and it's really wow. But there's parts of it where you're really dragging people through because they're not quite connecting the dots. And it can be extremely frustrating and makes you kind of spend a lot of your time just getting something to a 7 out of 10 standard, where you know this thing has the potential to be a 12 out of 10 campaign.
How has the South African Podcasters Guild helped in overcoming common obstacles faced by local podcasters?
I once again just go back to access. And the most common question we get, and I mean, it does make sense. what equipment do I need? Or should I invest in better equipment? That is the most common thing, right? But what we've also seen is that is a crutch, because people go, I want to start a podcast, but I can't afford the equipment. And then you go, okay, well, here's the equipment. Oh, no, but I want to do video actually. So what video? So, well, here's the video. Oh, no, that's too expensive. So I can't start my podcast until that. That's nonsense. If you feel you've got something to tell and put in a podcast, start your podcast. Put it on your phone. There are so many apps already, AI integrated apps, things that just will make you sound better. You're not going to be broadcast quality, but you are going to sound better than where you are. So we find that question, and we normally find it when somebody asks, what gear do I need? We kind of go, what gear can we give you? And one of the big things in the podcaster guild is people within the guild who have their own studios and access to studios have opened up the doors to creators and said, listen, I understand you don't want to invest in the equipment. I've got the equipment. It's a specialist equipment that sits most of the time not being used. You're more than welcome to come use my studio. And suddenly it's not an equipment problem. It's like, oh, no, but this and this and this and that. So it's quite interesting to see this common thing of I need gear. That's not the gear. That's the crutch you're using to not enter. But within that, we're saying, listen, whatever your obstacle is, because then if that's your obstacle, we help unpack it. But whatever your obstacle is, we're going to help you get over it, or at least give you access to the knowledge and the people that can help you get over it.
As an award-winning podcaster, what advice would you give to aspiring podcasters in South Africa?
Start. Do one and done. It's a cliche, but that doesn't make it less true, is that if you don't hate your first few episodes, you're not a podcaster. Start. Don't use equipment as an excuse. Don't use, but I need a host. Don't use, I can't find a guest. Don't use something about podcasting inspired something. You saw something in it. Said, I want to do that. So do it. Okay. And then also be realistic about what your success is. I have been fortunate in that I have, my podcast has done well. I never went in to do that. I went in to go, and my podcasts are not life-changing at all. They're fun, they're entertainment, and I want people to have fun, and the people who listen have fun. And the byproduct is that, okay, well, your peers see the quality of work you do, and they go, well, that is a standard of what, we think is a good standard. But don't go in expecting that. But what I'm trying to get at there is be realistic about what your success is, right? If you want to win awards, okay, find out how you're going to win awards. If you want a lot of listeners, do that. If you want to use your podcast to get more customers for your main business, do that. But just be very realistic and don't be hard on yourself. What we get all the time is, and I think there's a big barrier we have to break in the podcaster, any podcaster I talk to, they won't tell you their listeners. They won't tell you. You speak to someone who's got an Instagram profile. They go, oh, well, I've got 10,000 followers. A podcaster will never tell you how many listens they have because they don't know what the quantity is. The first thing I'll tell a podcaster, this is how many listeners I have. And they go, but you win an award and you're this and you're that. I said, yeah, I'm realistic about what my show is, where my show is in the market I'm in, okay, and the content I'm doing. I'm realistic. And suddenly it breaks it down. They go, oh, okay, that's fine. Then I say to them, well, how many listeners do you have? Well, I got 15. Put 15 people in a room, and every day, every week, they're coming to listen to you for an hour. They could listen to anything. They could watch anything. They got Netflix, they got Disney Plus, they could do, and they're choosing time to come to you. So just break that barrier down. So don't go into it wanting to win an award. Go into it because you want to do something cool and you want to tell people your story or a story or enable them to tell their stories, and then be realistic about what you're doing and just be okay with small numbers. It's Rome wasn't built in a day, and also you don't always have to be the Roman Empire, if I'm going to mix metaphors.
How do you stay updated with the latest trends and technologies in the audio and podcasting industry?
I subscribe to an obscene amount of newsletters. I follow an obscene amount of people on X and LinkedIn, but I think the best thing for me is that over the years I have made very good, close and personal friends with some of the most dynamic minds and thinkers in audio and podcasting, both locally and internationally, and I count them as my friends. And they will send me stuff, or we'll have a quick conversation, whether I need to know something about a piece of software or a technology or an ad format. I know that I've got the best people around me, and like specifically when it comes into the audio production side, I'm at a point where, yes, I do understand audio production, but I don't understand it to the level that, you know, my friends and colleagues do. And I'm very fortunate to say to somebody, listen, this is what I'm hearing, what I'm picking up. If you tell me otherwise, I'm going to go with you because you've got no reason to lead me wrong. So it's about having their network. I think if you find somebody in your same space, even if you find people not in your space, if you find somebody who is a video game developer, speak to them and understand their world, because there might be something there that's going to help you be better in yours. And I think that's quite important in what I've done. As much as I've subscribed to everybody in my industry, you start to see a recycling of content, or if there's one narrative, the total polar narrative is promoted next door to it. And you can have a little bit of tunnel vision. So it's also important to step out of your industry and go to adjacent industries and see how they do things, understand how they're working, and see the similarities or even see the complete differences and go, how can I do that? It's also important to see the challenges they have to make you feel better about your challenges, but also to go, ooh, that's a pitfall that we could avoid if we did this. So, you know, just surround yourself with all types of information and all types of people, and listen to Into the Podverse with Tony Doe. I mean, that's your one stop. If you can listen to one podcast, listen to that one.
Paulo Dias, thanks for coming on the show. Into the Podverse is brought to you by Tony Doe Media and is produced by yours truly. It's available everywhere you get your podcasts, and do be sure to leave us a complimentary note via the links in the description. May the Pod Force be with you.